Thank you.
So I'm going to present the results of a study we performed 2 years ago, where we tested 2 prophylactic treatments of subclinical hypocalcemia at calving, involving an intravenous and oral source of calcium. But first I will give a bit of background on hypocalcemia in dairy cows. So most dairy cows exhibit various degrees of hypocalcemia at calving. Hypocalcemia is characterized by blood total calcium falling below 2 millimole per liter. And it is due to the shift from the calcium requirement at gestation to the high calcium requirement of the lactation. And this is especially important for dairy cows because in a normal system, there is not such a drastic shift of calcium requirement between gestation and lactation. But most dairy cows have a milk yield that greatly exceed the needs of the offspring, and they can feed more calves than the 1 or 2 they can bear. So there is a critical need to adapt the calcium metabolism at parturition. And the adaptation will take place in the kidney, in the gastrointestinal epithelium, and in the bone. So the kidney can adjust quite fast, but can only correct a small negative calcium fluctuation. And the gastrointestinal tract is the most efficient to correct hypocalcemia through intestinal absorption of calcium, but this will involve cell differentiation in the gastrointestinal tract, which can take 1 to 2 days, and it could be this delay that could be the underlying cause of hypocalcemia. And hypocalcemia was linked with reduced dry matter intake and reduced milk yield, which are major contributing factors to the financial viability of the dairy production. So here I will give a few examples of dietary strategies to prevent or treat hypocalcemia. This list is not exhaustive. So there are pre-calving strategies to adapt the calcium metabolism prior to parturition. The first one is to modulate the calcium intake during the dry period. It's also possible to, one of the most common ones is to induce metabolic acidosis by feeding anionic salt prepartum, so feeding diets with a negative decad, because this will inhibit the renal calcium reabsorption. And it's also possible to feed a calcium antagonist to reduce the availability of calcium, to adjust the calcium metabolism prior to calving. Then there are post-calving strategies. The most common one is to feed an oral source of calcium as a prophylactic treatment of hypocalcemia. And it's also possible to provide intravenous calcium infusion as a treatment to correct hypocalcemia. And in this presentation, we focus on the post-calving strategies. So if we look into the intravenous calcium infusion, so it's the most direct, it can be considered as the most direct post-calving intervention because we put the calcium directly where it's needed, so directly in the blood, and it doesn't go through, it doesn't involve the kidney or the intestinal absorption. And it's potentially life-saving in animals with clinical hypocalcemia. But by looking at those data from 1957, our team thought that by looking at this graph, that actually the peak of calcium that is reached right after the intravenous infusion could lead to hypocalcemia in healthy animals 24 hours after the infusion. And this was actually properly tested in 2014 by Blanc. In an experiment where he had 3 treatment groups, one receiving a calcium intravenous infusion, a control group, and one receiving an oral source of calcium after calving. And as you can see, 24 hours after the infusion, the levels of blood calcium were the lowest for the group getting the IV. So the objective of our study was to evaluate the effect of two calcium supply strategies at calving, including an oral and intravenous source on mineral metabolism and metabolic parameters. So we involved 24 multiparous Holstein dairy cows at calving in this study in a randomized block design. We used the same approach than the study from Blanc for the blocking and for the treatment group, except that we did not have a control group. We were only comparing both strategies. And for the blocking, we were blocking the animals based on ionized calcium in the blood, and the threshold was 1.1 millimole per liter. So either the cows were hypocalcemic or normocalcemic, and within each block, we would randomly assign animals to either oral or intravenous calcium. And our oral calcium treatment was calcium suspension that was based on voluntary intake. It was 20 liters containing 48 grams of calcium and coming especially from calcium carbonate. And for the intravenous infusion, we had a solution containing 13 grams of calcium from calcium gluconate. And all the cows consumed 20 liters, so there was no differences in intake. So these are a few mean values of parameters that describing the cows we had in this study. So unfortunately, all the oldest cows ended up in the oral group because we were blocking them on ionized calcium, so it would be wise for our next study to also block them on parity to avoid this. And this are the results for blood calcium. So on the left side, you can see the blood ionized calcium, and on the right side, the total calcium. So the magnitude of the differences was higher with the ionized calcium. There was a transient state of hypercalcemia after the infusion that was followed by hypocalcemia 24 hours later. And there was higher levels of blood calcium between 18 to 36 hours with the oral calcium treatment. And this was significant at 24 and 36 hours after the start of the treatment for the blood ionized calcium, and it was significant at 24 hours for the total calcium. Then we also looked at glucose, so there was a peak around calving. Which was actually independent from treatment, and it's a physiological response following parturition, and it is associated with the increase of glucocorticoids, which are important for the gluconeogenesis to support calving and lactation. There was no effect of the treatment on the acid-base balance, and cows had a normal blood pH, which makes sense because in this study we did not feed anionic salt to the animals because we wanted to create a calcemic stress at calving, because we wanted to work with cows that actually had a hypocalcemia issue. And also our oral treatment was contained calcium carbonate and not calcium chloride, so it makes sense that there was nothing happening on the acid-base balance. Then if we look at the minerals, so here we have serum magnesium and serum potassium. So for the magnesium, there was a peak at the time of the infusion, which is actually due to the fact that the intravenous solution contained magnesium. And there was a lower serum potassium at the time of the infusion and 48 hours later. And this could be due to osmotic effect following the infusion to balance the pool of mineral that was put into the blood. That's our explanation. So to summarize, the composition of the test solutions induced small differences in serum magnesium and potassium. There was a transient increase of glycemia at calving, which was a normal physiological response following parturition. The calcium intravenous infusion created a calcium signal in the blood that initiated a chain reaction leading to hypocalcemia 24 hours later. And correcting calcemia using intravenous infusion should only be a tool to save cows from acute hypocalcemia, but not a standard prophylactic procedure at calving, which is often the case, because I visited farms where they can give up to 5-6 calcium intravenous infusion after calving to cows that are not down. And to conclude, our results support the findings from Blanc. The oral calcium supply represents a safer prophylaxis protocol against subclinical hypocalcemia compared to intravenous calcium infusion because it doesn't induce this marked calcium signal after the intervention. And for future research, it would be interesting to look at the differences between oral calcium suspension and boluses, and also to evaluate the implication of prophylactic practices on health and production.